Hello, happy Sunday. So I'm going to quickly do my skincare routine. And as I do my skincare routine, I wanted to do a girl talk about basically like taking back your power and trying not to be so swayed by the outside world and kind of like just surrendering to the fact that you like 99% of life you have no control over. And accepting that rather than like anxiously trying to control that. I feel like for the past 2 months with like midterms and finals and searching for an internship, I have just become so like anxiously attached and so preoccupied with just like things that were outside of me. And I feel like there were just like so many moments where I was just so deeply anxious, and I just felt like I was a different person. Like there would just be moments where I'd be in bed and I'd be like this, like I just can't live this way. The anxiety was just so overwhelming and it was so just all encompassing. And yeah, I just reached a point, I would say sometime like around mid-May, where I was like, I genuinely cannot live like this. I cannot live always being so like swayed and driven by things that are outside of me and like so like desperately trying to control things that I ultimately have no control over. And I feel like that is what fuels the anxiety, is because you're trying to control things that you don't have control over, but like you have to accept that you don't have control over it and kind of just surrender and trust that everything will work out. And it's so crazy because I was reading a journal. This is when I was interviewing with Stanford, to do my internship at Stanford. I was reading a journal entry and I was so anxious about getting the Stanford internship, and then I got the Stanford internship, and then I was so anxious about getting housing because it's really difficult to get housing over there. And then so now that everything's figured out, I got the internship, I figured out housing, I was reading it and I was like, okay, like I need to stop worrying because the theme is that everything is gonna work out. So why am I constantly just in this perpetual state of, if I'm not worrying about this, I'm worried about the next thing, and then I'm worried about the next thing. And it's just so exhausting for your mind. And I ultimately I feel like the reason why a lot of people like we anxiously attach to things is because we are trying to like find safety in the uncertainty. But I've come to realize, and I feel like that's like the theme of my video, just taking back your power, is understanding that you are resilient and that you will figure things out. And that's kind of like an affirmation that I've been telling myself whenever I find myself worrying about things, because honestly, if I'm not worried about one thing, I'm worried about the next. It's like my mind, I feel like my brain is constantly just in overdrive, worried about the next thing. And I've just been having to tell myself, like, I'm resilient, I will figure it out, I always figure things out. And you can honestly, I feel like you can just like look back at your life, and the theme, at least for me, it's like things always work out. Like I'm always able to figure things out. I just remind myself that I'm very adaptable, I'm tenacious, I'm resilient, and I've got this. And I feel like that is for me, like that's how I'm taking my power back, is just reminding myself that I cannot live my life being so preoccupied and anxiously attached to external things that are outside of me, and taking my power back by just staying grounded, and my affirmations, like reminding myself I'm resilient, I got this, I'll figure it out. And essentially just like cultivating a safe space, a safe, solid, sturdy space within myself, and just staying centered rather than like just like living in my brain and just being so anxious about what's gonna happen next. And kind of, I feel like just going through life and experiencing life in this state of flow, rather than like when you're just constantly, rather than just like constantly ruminating on, oh my god, like what's gonna happen next, is this gonna happen, is that gonna happen? Yeah, it's like my goal, I would say, for the rest of the year, and especially like this month, to just stop worrying about everything. I had to catch myself today because I'm moving in with my friend in the fall, and I was gonna text her because I want to make sure it's all gonna work out, and I was like, stop worrying, like it's all gonna work out. I don't need to send that text, like everything is gonna be fine, and if it doesn't work out, I'll figure something else out. I went to hot yoga this afternoon, and yeah, this morning I kind of just woke up kind of frazzled, but the hot yoga session, by the end of it, I feel like one reason why I love yoga is because I just like get like in the flow and out of my head and like just back into my body. And at the end of class, I just was like laying on the mat, and I was just like reassuring myself and affirming myself that like I'm safe, I'm good, everything's gonna work out, I'm blessed. I always remind myself sometimes when I just get so worried, I just remind myself, I'm like, you're blessed, like everything's gonna be okay. Did you forget that you're blessed? I always tell myself, I'm like, did you forget you're blessed? Like everything is gonna work out, stop worrying. Because I was reflecting on January till May, I guess the start of May, and I was like, literally there was not one point where I allowed myself to just rest. Like I was constantly just so like living in the future and trying to, I think just like with the internship, trying to secure a good internship and other stuff going on, created like, it made me into this person that was just so constantly anxious and worried. And at the end of April, I was like, I cannot live like this. This is not the way to live. And if it's not one thing I'm worried about, it's the next. So I think this month especially, I'm just taking back my power and just focusing on the little things that I ultimately do have control over, and making like an intentional effort to be mindful and like do yoga, go on walks, and things that just like do things that help me feel centered. And when I feel myself starting to worry, I kind of just like force my thoughts, or not, I don't change my thoughts, I just try to observe them and like change them rather than ruminating on the worried thoughts that I have. I feel like I have this ideal version of myself in my head, like how sometimes you just like picture or you envision the ideal woman that you want to be. And for me, I always just like picture this woman that is just like really focused on herself and like what she's doing and on her purpose, and I'm just somebody that is not swayed by things I don't have control over. Like I just like really imagine that, and I'm like, that is what I'm working towards. And I'm just learning to be in the flow of life and enjoy my life and enjoy this experience that we all have. I feel like a part of taking your power back is just like having that inner faith that you are capable and that you've got this and everything's gonna work out. Just like building and strengthening that relationship with yourself where you just have faith in, even if things don't work out how I wanted it to work out, I'm still gonna figure it out, and it'll work out in a different way, because that's essentially what always ends up happening. Like when you don't get something you want, you'll figure it out and then you get something else that you want. So yeah, that is my 2 cents on this topic about taking your power back. I'm so excited for this summer. I'm gonna be in California. I think the theme for May and the rest of the summer, and then hopefully in the fall, this will kind of just be like my default, or just like a practice that I'm better at, is just remaining in my power and staying centered instead of just being so like anxiously thrown by like what life has coming for me. I remain centered and grounded, and things will be happening like in my life, and I just stay centered instead of like being like swayed by everything. Whenever I do these girl talks, I feel like I repeat myself so much, or like I say the same words over and over again. I don't think I have anything else to say, or else I'm just gonna sound redundant. So if you are still watching this, thank you so much. And yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.